Do you have a paranormal encounter you'd like to share with us? Send us an email with your story for a chance of it being featured on Weird World. The fall of 1975 through early 1976 marked a period of intense UFO activity that closely paralleled the UFO wave of 1973, but with one crucial distinction: the phenomena had grown bolder. The Aerial Phenomena Research Organisation, or APRO, noted a pattern emerging in their abduction cases, with striking similarities in the descriptions of both the craft and their occupants. Among these cases, the experience of Johnny Sands stands out as one of the most compelling and well-documented encounters. Sands, a 30-year-old country western singer, was building his career in Las Vegas, Nevada, working to promote his first recording while performing in local shows. The credibility of his account would later be verified through a polygraph test administered by Robert L. Nolan of Robert H. Nolan Associates in Las Vegas, which showed no signs of deception. On January 29, 1976, Sands was conducting a routine check of his record's performance at radio stations and on jukeboxes in the surrounding towns. Having left Pahrump at 10 p.m, he was travelling along the Blue Diamond Road when his night took an extraordinary turn. At approximately 10:30 p.m, about 22 miles outside of Las Vegas, he first noticed an unusual aircraft. Initially, he paid little attention to the craft, though it followed his vehicle for roughly 3 miles. The situation escalated when his car's engine began to sputter, forcing him to pull off the road. Following standard procedure for a breakdown, Sands exited his vehicle and conducted a thorough check. He walked around the car, removed the gas tank lid, and shook the rear end to verify his fuel level. The sound of splashing gas confirmed he had sufficient fuel, so he replaced the cover and moved to the front of the vehicle, raising the hood for further investigation. It was at this moment that Sands looked up and observed the craft that had been following him, now hovering at what he estimated to be about 1,000 feet in altitude. The craft was unlike anything Sands had ever seen. Approximately 60 feet long, it resembled the Goodyear blimp in its basic shape, but with a distinctive large round ring at its midsection. This ring section featured round windows or portholes, each approximately 10 feet in diameter and spaced about 5 feet apart around its circumference. Between each portal, lights illuminated the craft's rusty orange exterior. The ends of the vehicle were marked by flashing red and white lights. As Sands watched, the craft moved slowly over the mountain to the south, lighting up the mountain as it passed before appearing to land. Returning his attention to his vehicle, Sands began to remove the air filter. Then suddenly, for reasons he couldn't explain, he turned to look down the road in the direction his low-beam headlights were pointing. 2 figures were approaching through the darkness. His initial thought was that they might be muggers, but as they drew closer, he found himself inexplicably paralyzed, unable to move despite his conscious efforts to do so. The beings that approached were unlike any human Sands had ever encountered. They positioned themselves strategically, one stopping about 3 feet in front of him, while the other remained about 5 feet further back. Their appearance was striking. They were completely bald, without eyelashes or eyebrows. Most notably, they had gill-like protrusions on either side of their faces that maintained a constant, rapid movement throughout the entire encounter. Their eyes were small and black, with white centres or pupils, set above unusually small mouths that never opened. Their noses were described as pug or flattened. The being's attire was equally extraordinary. They wore black, silverish, all-encompassing overalls that showed no visible seams. A white strap ran diagonally from the right shoulder to the left waist, and they wore a wide white belt that resembled patent leather. Attached to this belt were several silver capsule-shaped objects, each about 1 inch long, hanging on hooks. Throughout the interaction, the being closest to Sands continuously manipulated one of these capsules. Despite their humanoid appearance, there were subtle differences in their physical form. Standing at approximately 5 foot 7 inches or 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighing about 140 pounds, they had gloved hands with a thumb and 4 fingers similar to human hands. Their footwear featured notable padding over the top and across the back of the foot, covered in the same material as their suits. Their movement was particularly striking. They seemed to float rather than walk, making no sound despite clearly making contact with the ground. The face of the being who communicated with Sands left a particularly strong impression. As Sands would later describe it, the face was wrinkled. Now, body-wise, he looked as fit as a 21-year-old, but in his facial structure, I don't know, something gave me the idea this guy was 300 or 400 years old. It's a very powerful face, a very powerful set of eyes. He's not so ugly as he is powerful looking. The communication that followed was both fascinating and unsettling. The closer being asked Sands a series of questions in a deep, mechanical voice that seemed to emanate from its body despite its unmoving mouth. The voice had an echo-like quality with notable spacing between words. First, it asked what Sands was doing there, to which he explained his role as an entertainer in Las Vegas. The being then inquired about the high population in Las Vegas, and Sands explained the city's nature as a tourist destination. When asked about their means of communication, Sands expressed confusion due to the question's ambiguity. This response appeared to irritate the being, who demanded, "Answer the question." When Sands reiterated his confusion, the two beings turned to face each other in silence for several minutes. The encounter concluded with a chilling interaction. The questioning being turned back to Sands, reached out with its left hand, which felt like rough, heavy-duty sandpaper, and brushed Sands' left hand. It then delivered a clear warning. "Don't say anything about this meeting. We know where you are, and we'll see you again." The two beings then walked approximately 150 to 200 feet away before vanishing in a flash of light. The entire encounter lasted approximately 10 minutes. Throughout this period, the paved road remained largely deserted, with only 4 cars passing during Sands' entire journey. The last vehicle had passed just after he pulled off the road, and though he had attempted to flag it down, the car had only briefly slowed before continuing toward Pahrump. After the beings departed, Sands' car started without any issues, and he proceeded to Las Vegas. Following the incident, Sands reported his experience to the police, who directed him to the Office of Special Investigations at Nellis Air Force Base. The base's response was limited. Their spokesman stated that the Air Force had discontinued UFO investigations in 1969 and that their office only handled internal criminal matters. While they reported no unusual radar activity that night, they acknowledged that only the base's runway headings were being monitored. Similarly, the McCarran Airport Tower, which monitors a 55-mile radius from surface to infinity, detected nothing unusual, though they noted their line-of-sight radar would not have detected craft beyond the mountains. The case took an unusual turn on February 10th when a film crew from Dave Dunn Productions, working on a television series about unusual phenomena, became involved. They took Sands to the encounter site, where a strange series of events unfolded. While sitting in their car, Sands overheard disturbing fragments of conversation among the film crew, including concerns about what to do with him, since he had already heard too much. When he attempted to exit the vehicle, two fuzzy things repeatedly prevented him from leaving. Later that evening, after being taken to dinner where alcohol was served, Sands experienced memory gaps that led him to wonder if he had been drugged. The polygraph test, administered by Robert L. Nolan, focused on several key aspects of the encounter. Sands was asked if he had seen two strange figures in the desert, if he had communicated with them, if they had told him they would see him again, if he was under the influence of anything during the meeting, and if he had told the truth about the events of January 29th. After 3 charts and careful examination, Nolan concluded that Sands was truthful in his answers to these specific questions, though he noted that this verification was limited to these particular aspects of the story. Supporting the credibility of Sands' account were multiple independent witnesses who contacted the police department that evening, reporting an object in the area that matched Sands' description. Despite suggestions that he undergo hypnotic regression to recover additional details of the encounter, Sands expressed reluctance due to a fear of hypnosis. He maintained that there were additional details about the encounter that he could not share, citing a sense of obligation to honour the trust of his otherworldly visitors. This case remains one of the most puzzling and significant from the 1975 to 1976 UFO wave. The combination of physical effects on the vehicle, multiple witnesses, a past polygraph examination, and the detailed nature of Sands' account makes it very difficult to dismiss. Moreover, the case exemplified the increasing direct nature of UFO encounters during this period, suggesting a possible shift in the phenomenon's interaction with human witnesses.